Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Rooted in Ag podcast. I'm here with Madison. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back.
Me too. We're back after Christmas, and I think we both had good Christmases and New Year's, and we took a week off, and now we're excited to hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
Madison, you want to get into our question for this episode?
Yeah, so our first question of the new year is, what is your 2025 agricultural New Year's resolution?
Yeah, so I'll let you answer that first, actually.
Yeah, okay, so mine is more on the communication side. For one of my NTI assignments, because we've had so many snow days recently, we had to make a bingo board of goals. And on my bingo board, I put that the podcast would have at least 10 episodes, before the summer started. So that's my agricultural New Year's resolution this year, is to get 10 episodes done before summer.
Well, we're about to knock one out right here. I guess mine would be to just, finish the school year strong, FFA wise, 4-H wise, everything like that. Not get the senioritis bug, especially in terms of FFA. Finish my commitments and roll on to the next thing that God has planned for me. So that's my 2025 agricultural goals.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yep. With that said, I guess we can go ahead and introduce our guest. He is the 2024-2025 Kentucky FFA State President, a long-awaited episode, Mr. Trenton Page. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. How are y'all?
Good. We're excited to have you. We've been talking to you for a while about getting you on, but we said we wanted, to sit back, let you do some cool things, this and that. And so we're excited to finally have you on.
Yeah, very long awaited. I'm very excited.
So speaking of the experiences and stuff, y'all fought the snow a little bit last week, but I still think you got to do some of your industry tours. How'd that go?
They went great. It's something we kind of look forward to all year. And like you'd mentioned, the snow came in. Unfortunately, we lost to Blaine Bramble in the process. He was trapped deep into Carter County and wasn't able to make it. So that was a shame.
Oh, no.
But, outside of that, it went really, really well. We, instead of starting in Lexington, we decided to start in E-Town about halfway through our trip. Made our way all the way to the other side, to the western side of the state. Ended up ending in Hopkinsville. So we made a lot of ground, and we just really had a great time. Got to meet some really awesome sponsors, some new potential sponsors, and just people that do a lot for Kentucky FFA. So it really was a great week, and we're really thankful.
I love that. This year's state officer team, I feel like, has a wide range of skills and goals and assets to their personality. So what do you think, being directly on the team, is the most unique about this new team, this larger team that you have?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. Like you'd mentioned, we're just so broad. I think that, you have your Avery Coles, who are just so put together and so well-rounded. And then, you have people like me and Blaine and Luke who joke around with each other, always trying to make members laugh and feel involved. And I just think that we do such a good job of just making everyone feel like they have a place, because we're all so different. I don't think that there's a single member who can't relate to at least one of us, or I at least hope so. So that's something we really try to put an emphasis on. And we're just really blessed to have the opportunity to all be so different. I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but, differences build one another. And as we go throughout a year, we've definitely seen that over and over again. When we first started, we kind of was trying to figure out, how do we make our differences work together? Because that's something that's definitely very hard to do. At first glance, it's a lot easier to cooperate with somebody that you feel the same way as. But as you kind of go throughout the year and you see how you work with one another, it definitely ends up being something that can help you in the long run. So that's definitely, I think, our biggest strength, is just all having so many different wide a range of strengths.
Well said. So you talked about, when y'all started out. Let's go back to that, when y'all started out. Tell us the moment that you realized you were the Kentucky FFA State President, how that went down, because me and Madison were both in the crowd, and we were super duper excited for you. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, wow, man. It's still a lot of a blur to me. As I go throughout my year, I kind of get like bits and pieces put back in my mind. But, so start back at the beginning of the week. Obviously everybody knows like the dreaded state officer process. It's scary, but it's really is just such a good time. Along the process, you meet so many great people. We were fortunate enough to have two really good state officer coordinators, Elijah Brock and Leslie Monholland, two past state officers. And they did a really good job throughout the week of just keeping us calm, making sure that we interview our absolute best, and we just put forth the most effort that we can. So as we went throughout the week, I was kind of trying to stay calm. I talked to my advisors, my mom and dad, no matter what happened, it was all in God's plan. I knew that. And when it came down to the big day, I was honestly a little nervous. Like I said, I tried to put it all in God's hands, but quite honestly, it's the biggest moment of my life. So as I'm sitting there and, the music's playing, the Chicago Bulls theme song, I still can't listen to it. It's just completely ruined in my mind. And we're sitting there and we're rocking back and forth, and it, gets to the VPs, and I'm so excited. I'm ready to hear my name called. I just want to get it over with, know if I'm a state officer or not. And it gets past the VPs, and I'm kind of looking around, and I look at my ag teacher in the crowd, and I'm like, holy cow, we're in the top 6 now. And eventually it kept going up and up, and they called Lake Cumberland Region for president. And it's like my heart just stopped. It felt like there was a million seconds between the time they say president and the time they say Trenton Page. And it really was just, it's all a big blur. I'm still trying to find all the different kind of videos that I can from all around the stage and stuff, because I want to see my reaction. I've still yet to find one. The only one I found is me bawling my eyes out on stage. So I would like to maybe find one, me jumping up in the air or something. But yeah, it was just a surreal experience. It's something that, at the end of the day, whether I got state office or not, I would hold it near and dear to my heart. I met some of my best friends for the rest of my life, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that's looking to go further into FFA, whether you think that, it's through state office or through maybe becoming an ag teacher. I would definitely just look into the process. I think you figure out a lot about yourself through doing it. And even if you decide that's not necessarily the path for you, you may figure out different ways that you can impact your future. So yeah, overall, it was a really great experience.
I like it. So following up with that, obviously stress was probably the biggest challenge you faced that week and everything like that. But besides that, what would you say was the most difficult for you besides the stress and the weight?
Yeah, obviously the stress was the main factor. For me, honestly, it was just letting people down. I think that coming into it, I was more concerned about letting my advisors and my mom and dad down for all they've done for me in comparison to actually doing it for myself. And I look back at all the members that have impacted me throughout my time in FFA. I've been lucky enough to meet people like y'all, the people that just really pour their heart into it. And this year I've been lucky enough to, further myself into that and, be in a position where I can impact y'all even more. But as I was sitting on that stage and I was, beginning to interview for all the different processes and things, I just really began to think, how can I pay back the people that helped me? I got to absolutely put my 100% effort forward and just make sure that, no matter what happens, I can be happy with the output that I put forward. But like you mentioned, stress is the main thing. But right behind that was definitely seeing my mom and dad in the crowd, drove all the way from Adair County, brought my sister up, and my name doesn't get called, but which is okay. It happens. And I know they'd still be proud of me either way, but that's definitely my biggest fear. I've always wanted to please people, and I'm just happy that it worked out the way that it did. If it didn't, it would have been okay, but in the time, I'm sure that I would have been a little bit hurt.
I love that, and it's so surreal to still see your emotions. That was back in June, and here we are January. You're still as excited about it. You're still as passionate about it, and going back, Leslie and Elijah, they truly are amazing. I got to experience camp with them several years ago, and it was just always a blast when their face was around. So during those trying times, during those challenges, when you're stressed, when you don't know where else to look, what kind of advice would you give to members that are, maybe going to run for state office, or ones that are doing competitions or just nervous to get their foot in the door? What would you say to them to keep them motivated?
Yeah, so, every FFA member that's ever competed in a contest knows it, no matter if it's a chapter event or you're competing at the state level, you're always going to be nervous. The preparation that goes into it, the hard work, you want that to pay off. But something that I always relied on very heavily throughout my years in FFA was just relying on the Lord. And whether you're a religious person or not, just having something that you can rely on, just something bigger that you can say, no matter what happens, I gained something through this experience and my hard work has paid off, whether I win this contest or not. And I honestly struggled with that throughout my time at FFA, and I'm beginning to see it a little better now. But that's definitely what I kept at the center of my focus. Something else is just people that can hold you accountable. For me, Parley was always one of my favorite contests because if I messed up, my whole team was going to let me know about it. And I was going to be able to fix my mistakes the next year until, obviously you're at the end of your career. And each and every year you get to build on it. So I think that's something that you can honestly work on the people in your chapter. If you can find people to hold one another accountable, I still do it this day on my state officer team. Me and Jacob Rudy have a great relationship. I make sure to talk to him and tell him if there's something he can improve on, he does a thing for me. And it's no backlash at all, that we understand that we're just trying to make one another better. And I think that if people in their chapters, at the local level or even like on regional teams or future state officer teams, if they're looking for something to take that stress away and make them better, definitely find somebody you can rely on. And for me, that was the Lord, and finding teammates in the process.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on the parlay thing. Your teammates will let you know really quick if you mess up. I was on a team with all girls, so I could totally relate to that. I still am. So pray for me. No. We asked Caroline Groth a similar question about Kentucky State Fair, and so I think we should ask it to you too. How intimidating was it when you go into the State Fair board and you're one of the youngest people there and you see all these big names in agriculture? Tell us a little bit about that and just working with the State Fair and everything like that.
Yeah, so as an FFA member, State Fair is always something, you're absolutely psyched for. I mean, it was, when it was put on my State Fair, or when it was put on my chapter roster this year, I knew that that's exactly what I wanted to do. That was a thing that I wanted to put full effort into at the beginning of the year, get my year started off right. So I got to State Fair, everything was going great, and then Mr. Koff told me, hey, Trenton, me and you have a meeting later on in the fair board room, which is like off in the corner where nobody ever goes, in what feels like, a dark alleyway, and it feels like everybody's just kind of staring at you as you're walking in because you're the new guy. Caroline was so hard to follow up because she truly is amazing, and her hard work's paying off. And I think me and Caroline are very different people. I think whenever she walked in the room, and just to be honest, it's mostly older men on the fair board. So obviously Caroline got along great with them. And it was really just on me to kind of just carry on what she had started. So as I got in the room, I began listening to them talk about, all the big things that are going on with the fair. I had no clue what they were talking about. I was just happy to be there. I had my program and paper, no clue what was going on. But Callie Ross, the state 4-H president, also serves on the board. Me and her were kind of just sitting there talking to one another, trying to get a grasp on exactly what was going on, because it was both of our first meetings. So as the meeting began to go on and on, I looked at the bottom of the program and I seen greetings from Kentucky FFA state president. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? So I immediately start, rambling stuff off my head, getting something prepared. And when it was called on me, the chair asked me, if I had anything that I wanted to say. I stood up. Nothing that I prepared for was what I said. It just all completely left my head, like it normally does. When you try to prepare for something, most of the time it goes the complete opposite. But I stood up and I just began talking. They're just a group of mostly old agriculturalists who just love FFA, love 4-H, and want the best for both of them. So although it was definitely intimidating at first, I'm so thankful for the experience. Now I've met some people that are honestly great connections the rest of my life, some people that are great supporters of 4-H and FFA. And I think that as I continue my time throughout FFA up until I retire, that's definitely one of the things I look forward to the most each and every month, is getting to go to the fair board, getting to talk to David Beck about how the fair is going and his experience in FFA, because he always has some fun stories to tell me. And it's great to see Callie too. Just, young leaders in agriculture, nothing like it. So it's a great experience.
I love that. So let's take it back a little bit to Adair County FFA, where you got your start. You can talk about your journey. You can talk about the people there. Beth was a great one. Always went to FFA camp with her. Talk about FFA camp. Anything that strikes your mind when it comes to high school FFA?
Yeah, so my high school FFA experience was a little bit different. Growing up, I was always big into sports. That was my thing. I never intended on becoming, in like a leadership organization. My goal when I was real little was go to the MLB. And then once I got past coach pitcher, I realized that was not my calling, but I still had fun doing it. But once I started getting into middle school, I realized that I didn't really have anything that I was super passionate about. Obviously, I loved hanging out with my friends, loved still, watching sports and things, but I had to have something that I had to fully devote myself to. And I luckily enough, one of my science teachers, Miss Brittany Smith, saw that. She seen me in the corner of the room one day. She knew I grew up on a cow-calf operation, and she was starting an FFA chapter at our middle school at the time. Seeing that we wasn't already chartered, she was actually going to start as a club. So basically the way that would work is she would teach science basically all day, and she would have one period where she could teach ag. She came to me, asked if I wanted to take it, and I said, absolutely not. There's no way I want to do that. I'm going to stick with my buddies in the normal classes. I'm going to get my way through middle school, and I'm going to graduate. That was my goal. But she asked me again and again and again, and eventually I decided to give in. I thought, I'll go learn about cows. Why not? I can take it back to the farm, make Dad happy. And it turned into so much more. I got some of my friends that were baseball and basketball players to come to the class with me. And within the first week there, she had convinced us to speak in our regional speaking day, which was like insane to me. And at the time, it was still impromptu. So I walked in, I was about maybe 5 foot even, probably a little less. And, my jacket was swallowing me whole because I didn't have my own yet. So I was borrowing somebody's and I had my hands full of the notebooks like you did whenever it was impromptu. And I walk in the room and they give me the topic, and I'm just there to be there at that point. It was kind of like, I wrote my speech out and I went in the room. From that point on, I was hooked. I mean, there was absolutely no way that I was leaving FFA after that experience. I met Mr. Landy Whelan from Cumberland County, who was an advisor. He was my judge in the room, and he just gave me some really good constructive criticism for a 7th grader at the time, which at the end of the day, did I listen to it then? Probably not. I probably was just excited to go home and, watch some TV or something. But looking back on it now, I really do appreciate all that happened at that time. So then as I transitioned into high school, super excited to join ag class, and COVID hit. That completely stopped every single bit of my ag class. The only ag class that I had was a principal's class where we were doing our certification, and I was learning not much FFA whatsoever, which was kind of the reason I joined ag class in the first place. So I was a little bit sad. Went through the year, we were virtual. Again, didn't learn much FFA, learned more animal science stuff, and honestly kind of ended my freshman year on a low note. I wasn't really doing any FFA at all, didn't really see it in my future, and thought that was kind of the end of the road for it. Sophomore year started. I was back to being the kid in the back of the class, wanted nothing to do with FFA, would probably just honestly sleep through my ICEV videos and whatnot, and was just ready, to kind of have that free period that a lot of kids hope for when going into ag class. And that was until we started a livestock judging unit. And livestock judging, a lot of times, it's a state fair CDE. It's not necessarily seen as the most rigorous contest, but it really changed my experience in FFA. The teacher started off by putting the classes on the board, and we would just write them down on our paper just for fun. So I started off, looking at the board, scrapping down my placings, thinking, why not? And I ended up, I guess, must have lucked into them. I had no clue what I was talking about, but I guess I lucked into having some of the best placings in the class, and I ended up getting put on the team. She asked me if I would please do it, and I talked to my dad, and he did livestock judging in high school, so he was like, just give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. So I began, studying a little bit, having some practices, and then she'd mention oral reasons, which for those of you that are watching that don't know, reasons is when you explain to a judge who knows a lot more than you about livestock judging while you just place the class the way you did, probably completely backwards. And you still try to get a good score.
Try to have Warren Beeler as your judge for reasons.
Yeah, that was actually my judge at State Fair my first year. I understand.
Me too.
Yeah, I understand 100%. So once you started the reasons, I was like, I'm probably out on this. I hadn't gave a speech since the 7th grade. This is not my cup of tea. But she, again, talked me into it. She has a way of doing it. It seems like it's brought me pretty far so far, so maybe I should start listening to her. But, so I started learning oral reasons. I got decently good at them. I have a really good teacher and a lot of people pushing me. That group of my team was all just a bunch of kids that played baseball that just decided to, take up livestock judging, and it really went well for me, and that really brought me back into FFA. I was lucky enough to place 3rd in the state, which I promise you I was not the 3rd best livestock judge in the state. Warren Beeler must have felt bad for me or something, but so it just worked out really well, drug me back into it, and from that point on, it kind of just rekindled my journey in FFA. The following year, I became a junior officer, began competing in more and more contests. And that's when Emmylou Miller really had a big impact on me. She was my chapter president at the time, but I never planned on becoming anything like her. She, from the time that she was a freshman onward, was always really big in FFA. That just wasn't me. She somehow seen something in me that nobody else did besides maybe my ag teacher, and decided to kind of take me under her wing. And we actually started a parley team for the first time in like 15 years in Adair County, which I believe you all both do parley. That's very, very difficult to do. And so as that went forward, we began practicing just about every day before the contest. I believe she threw a gavel at my head not once but twice. So that was a very altering experience at that time. Really got me keened in on it. I knew I was not going to make any more mistakes from that point forward. And we actually got 3rd in the region, which was very good for us at the time. Most people might be a little disappointed in it, but I was excited as could be. I knew that, unlike Emmylou, I still had another year left, so maybe I could, try to make it to state or just have another really good year. And I decided to run for office directly after Emmylou left. Emmylou made that big of an impact on me. One person completely changed my trajectory in FFA. So I ran for office, and I was elected chapter vice president, which is better than I could ever imagine myself doing. At that time, I thought that I was lucky to get office. I walked in the room sweating bullets, talking quick as can be, as I normally do. And it just ended up working out the best thing possible. I just, at that time, I wasn't a leader. I couldn't step into a role, and I don't know how I did. I was lucky to have a great officer team around me, great teachers that put me in a situation where I could succeed, and I'm very thankful for that. And that's why Adair County holds such a deep place in my heart, whether it be Miss Brittany Smith getting me the livestock judge or Miss Emmylou Miller, just stepping up and making me do parley, even though I absolutely did not want to. And those gavel throws in my head really did transition me into the leader that I am today. So I'm very appreciative of that. My senior year went about the same way, competed in a few contests. Actually, throughout my entire high school career, never made it out of region in an LDE. So that was very interesting career. I don't think that's normally the path that a state officer takes, but that just kind of goes to show you that no matter what your path at your chapter region level looks like, when it comes time to, if you're passionate about it, God has his way of making it work out. And it showed right there. And I just want to tell anybody that's viewing, don't let your failures in FFA define your future. You have so much time to continue on, compete in more contests, give more speeches, grow as a leader. The biggest growth don't necessarily come from contests. It just comes from communicating with your team, getting to know the members in your chapter. So as I did in Adair County, losing so many contests over and over and getting gavels through at my head by Emmylou Miller, you can do the exact same thing, not through winning contests or not through being perfect. You can just be there for your team, be there for the members, show up to events. That's the biggest thing that I would say. You don't have to do a single contest to be a good FFA member. We had a guy in our chapter by the name of Bodie Richard, and he absolutely did great. He was never an officer, but he was at each and every event. And I would just like to say that if you're an FFA member like that, you mean more to the chapter than people give you credit for most of the time. And I see Matthew shaking his head. He knows that, I'm sure in Barron County, there's a lot of people who may not get the recognition they deserve for showing up, but they're there each and every time, and they make a chapter. So I think that in my time in Adair County, that's what really shaped me into having the future that I do, and I'm forever thankful.
100%. There's those unsung members is what really makes the chapter. You have your executive team, and they're always there because they're expected to be there because they took on the role. But those members that choose to be there, that makes it worthwhile, and that really makes it your chapter. Anyways, we talked about your whole high school journey, and now you started a new adventure in August, I guess is what you could say, of college and ag classes in college and being a state officer while in college. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so college is a completely different experience for me. So if you hadn't been to Adair County before, it's a very small town. We don't have much, very tight-knit agricultural-based community. And that's not really what Lexington is. When I came up here and I seen Canes, I live right next to a Canes, I was about to jump out of my seat. That was really what sold me on UK. Every time me and Mom would come up here for a visit or to watch a ball game with my parents, I knew I was getting Canes and I was coming to UK in the fall. That's the two things that I took away from it. So as I got up here in the fall, I began to realize that you get very, very busy in college and you get very, very busy as a state officer. So those two things together have kept me very, very busy throughout my year. But I think that they've kind of kept me centered one another. For anyone, that is looking to maybe go into college at UK or anywhere else in Kentucky, I would say that they're all pretty similar, just to be honest with you. It comes down to a lot of small things, but like UK College of Ag, it's as tight-knit as a community as Murray State is. Even though Murray State's such a smaller college, I could name just about every person in my ag class. And I don't know that it would be any different if I went to Murray or Western or even out of state. I think that people get kind of intimidated by the big city feel and think that just because there's so many people that go to UK, that you're never really going to be able to meet like a good group of people. And that's something that I really struggled with. Back home, I have a really good group of guys that we all hang out each and every day. And I thought that I was going to struggle to find that at UK, but it's really the same as every other campus. It's just, find what you're passionate about. Find a good program for your major. That's a big thing. I'm lucky enough to have a really, really good ag ed program here at UK that has my back through everything. And I'm really appreciative for all that they do. And they've really helped me stay on the narrow path this year because it's so hard to balance all the things, and they've really helped me with that. So yeah, overall I've had a great experience, and it's really just helped me get closer with agriculture, get closer with education, and I'm lucky enough to share a room with Jacob Rudy, so it's like a once in a lifetime experience. I can't complain.
That's awesome. That's a really interesting take because we've had guys that have gone to WKU and then people that are at UK, and they're saying, "Oh, we're better than," but that's an interesting take to say. Push come to shove, they're all pretty similar. So that's very interesting. But you're on the back nine of your year of service with Kentucky FFA. So how do you plan on finishing strong, and what can we look forward to for convention?
Yeah, the beginning of my year was a lot of learning myself as much as I was teaching others. We go through so many trainings and so many things to make us the best version of ourselves so we can help Kentucky FFA to the best of our abilities. And that's kind of the goal throughout our year. I think I'm to the point now where the trainings are finally ending. We're getting to be able to start planning convention and such. And I think that I'm really starting to think about what our team's impact is on Kentucky FFA. Those little individual member interactions, the things that you do throughout your chapter visits, just how much they matter. And I'm starting to value each and every one so much. And as I come up to FFA week where I have chapter visits every day, or it gets banquet season where I'm running all over the place trying to make it to banquets and remember speeches, and I just really try to stay thankful for the opportunity that I'm in. I went through a lot of hard work. God put me in a position where I had this opportunity, and I just really want to take advantage of it and just make sure that I end my year the right way. I've been lucky enough to meet members throughout the year who have definitely changed my life. Now it's my turn to change theirs.
She's just staring at me. I'll cut that out. Madison, anything else from you?
I don't think so. I just would like to input that, like you said, each of the state officers are different. We covered that a lot on this podcast today. But, Jacob Rudy, I feel like he just brings the calmness and the funniness. And, like you said, Avery is very organized and she likes to get things done and keep everyone on track. And there's just so, Noah, when you get to know him, he's goofy. He's a great guy. So it's really just getting to know those state officers and learning together and growing together. And I really think that you all have done an excellent job of making your impact so far.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. The members is really what makes it. We've had the opportunity to be put in this position. We've had our FFA journey. Ours is coming to an end. Now it's y'all's turn to step up. It's y'all's turn to make a difference. And whether it's people becoming state officers or alumni in your chapter, there's always something you can do in your community to make a difference. And that's just really what we want to push out towards the end of our year. Like I mentioned, it's our turn to make a difference on Kentucky FFA. And we hope that as we finish up with our convention and we can just impact as many members as we can. That's the goal. That's why we're in FFA. We want to make everybody better. And we hope that we can do that throughout the end of our year. And if there's anything that, anybody listening wants from me or Matthew or Madison, anything I can do for y'all, just let me know, reach out. Anybody on our team would love to help any of Kentucky FFA. We're so thankful for the position that we've been put in, and we hope that we can take advantage of it.
I love it. And you made yourself so available. You're easy to talk to and schedule. And so we're very thankful that you were able to get us on. But before we close out, do you have anything else you want to say? Or if someone listening only listens to this next 30 seconds, anything else you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I would just love to go back to what I said earlier. What you've done in FFA up to this point does not determine your future. You have such a great future in FFA and even onward. What you can do to impact agriculture, or even just gain skills for the rest of your life, can all be accomplished through one single contest or one single event that you go to. You can go to one farm-to-table dinner, and you can meet the guy that will change the rest of your life. He could be your future employer. Or you could talk to the member in the back of the classroom and completely change the way they look at FFA, the way that my ag teacher and Emmy Lou changed my life. So I would just like to say, whatever it is, if you're nervous about getting out there and just trying a new thing, just do it. At the end of the day, you're going to remember the things you didn't do a lot more than things you did do and messed up on. I don't know how many times I've lost or I've, fell down and had to get back up, but I remember those times where I didn't try and do it, and I regret that a lot more than the times where I fell down and had to get back up. So that's, at the end of the day, just go out there and try it. It's not going to hurt you, I promise.
I love it. Madison, anything else from you?
I don't think so. Just thank you for getting on here and talking to us today.
Thank y'all. It's so good to see you.
Yep. And to our listeners, thank you. Madison, you want to say anything to the listeners?
Welcome to 2025. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, thank y'all, and we can't wait to push out some more episodes. I didn't know about Madison's 10-episode goal before summer, but I guess now I kind of have to help her hit it.
Yep.
1 down, 9 to go. Thank you again, Trenton, and we can't wait for the next episode.
We're having an all-night revival. Some will call the women and some will steal the Bible for the sake